everybody? Jose Taboada, your host for this segment of videos that we are very excited to start off today. Joined by the great John Dawson. You can find him at John Dawson Music on social media, and you can find me on social media at Taboada93. Now, if you listen to our recent episode 133, I said when I was introducing myself with the rest of the crew that I wanted to do this project because I think it's always great to turn back the clock a little bit, turn back to your origin story, turn back to some old fun memories. And in this case, I thought it would be a cool idea if we go back to where it all started for us here on Ringside Heat. So what we're going to do is, I don't know how often we're going to do this, and I do want to make an effort to try to do this consistently, whether it be twice a week or whatever. But I want to look back at all of our episodes. There's a lot of them. And of course, as we start our venture on YouTube, you will notice that at least at the time of this video, we started our video podcasts with episode 127. And I will say that I kind of wish that I put more effort into making this an earlier thought, but I still maybe Johnny can chime in here, but I still feel like even as where we are now as a show and as a group of friends, that we're still finding our footing, and I maybe better late than never. But I at least want to, again, I think it's very clear that I'm kind of helping lead the charge to help grow more and more. Not that Lex is, or not that any of the guys are, but I'm definitely trying to help put a bigger effort here on social media. So figured let's go back in time, John. So
I like this idea for a couple of reasons, and you touched on it before we started recording. But when the show started, we were at the very beginnings of the bloodline. Like, we ran as long as Roman's reign.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, as time goes on, as we're looking at this era now, but the era that sort of transitional era that led up to it, our show came out at a very significant time.
Yeah.
We're coming out of COVID. We're coming out of, we're coming into the bloodline era.
Fans are coming back into the stadiums and TV, right?
Exactly. And I think what I'm excited about with this, and we can probably do a couple here, just even in this one session now, because I'm excited to go back and revisit what was going on then. Like, there was a lot of a lot of what we were doing was kind of going, well, how do we do a show? How do we do this? How do we talk about it? I'm a musician, I'm a teacher, I'm all that. I'm not well, now I'm much more of a show guy than I was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, I remember us in those early days, and we didn't know each other and all that. And so I'm interested to see us in general, but also just to revisit and maybe have a new take on some of the key points. Maybe stuff we thought was important wasn't that important, and stuff we missed and stuff we talked was like, oh, wow, that wound up becoming a pretty big thing. So with wrestling, it's always one of those things where you have to go back and place things in context, right?
Yeah.
Because nothing happens in a vacuum in wrestling. Nothing.
No.
It's always building on another thing and pointing towards something else. So we're going to cycle back to arguably one of maybe the most significant storyline in the history of wrestling. And we're going to watch us react to it as it happens.
Now, of course, at the time we were doing this, so for a little behind the scenes, like
eventually, not right away. Eventually,
so a little behind the scenes, we use StreamYard. So it's an online service platform, so we can get everybody in, so we can have these really cool setups. And then what we do is we record our video episodes, and then up until recently, right, it was just export the audio, export it to Sauga 960 AM, export it to all our podcast platforms, and you're good to go. So I asked Lex this, and unfortunately, as expected, because these videos take up a lot of space, and even I was like doing some deleting here in the Ringside Heat library, that we don't have videos up until 127, which does suck. And I know I'm at fault of that. I think mainly for not saving and preserving the videos. So it is slightly unfortunate.
Were we on StreamYard from the beginning, or were we Zoom for a bit?
No, you're right.
I think we were on Zoom for a bit.
No, you're right. No, it was StreamYard, because at the time I had my podcast, Under the Middle Rope. so I was still doing my podcast. Well, I was still doing my podcast, if not just wrapped up. Because I saw that this was going to be my new platform for wrestling talk, and still going strong today, right? So I
Yeah,
was on a tail end of it. So yes, we were using Zoom.
I think we
And
were.
then I told Lex, hey, listen, I have this platform called StreamYard.
Also, the world was living in Zoom, right? Like there was
That
no,
too.
you know what I mean? Like it
So
was,
so I was using StreamYard for my podcast, Under the Middle Rope, and so I eventually said, "Listen, Lex, I have this platform. We started to incorporate and use it a little bit more, and you guys were fascinated by it. And I said, Lex, I want to transfer all this ownership for you because one, I can't really afford it anymore, and you're using it more often, and I think this is going to be great for this for the platform. And so the complete takeover happened, and so Lex now has full control of what used to be my StreamYard. Of course, he still has to use my email to log in, but all eventually, like this became our home for the most part. So yeah, so that's why we don't really have any videos. It's just unfortunately just lost in time, and with these first 10 episodes especially, you'll see that things were a little different. And two, I mean, I wish of all episodes I wish that we had the first one because I remember being timid. I remember being shy because fun fact about myself, um I I get anxious meeting new people. I like the fun, energetic person that these guys know now.
yeah.
I hate meeting new people, and it's weird to say that. But I remember being all timid. I'm like, okay, let's give this a chance because I only knew Lex at the time and slightly Chico, but John I didn't know. Colin I didn't know, and who you'll see in this video, Mark. Uh,
Mhm.
I didn't know, and of course, Mark did end up leaving the show. After episode 10,
Future endeavors, future
future
endeavors.
endeavor. Yeah. So I think I rambled on long enough. So what we got here is so what I have here is the our Spotify page, of Ringside Heat, and this episode was May 2021. May 2021. It's a new day. Yes, it is. So
This is episode 1?
this is the very first episode of Ringside Heat. So John, are you ready to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, man.
Oh my god, I'm
Do I
excited.
gotta
So
mute here? Do I gotta
no, no,
mute?
no.
What do
I
I
think
do?
if you want to have commentary on throughout the whole thing, if I need
Oh,
to
yeah, of course. That's
make
the
a
whole
comment,
point, isn't it?
do
Yeah.
it up. But for now, let's go. I just
60 a.m. I'm your host, Lex.
Necessarily
I need to
reflect the
backtrack here
views of
because
Sauga 960 AM or its
I need you
management.
to listen first because you'll know why.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. I'm your host, Lex Tan, and if you want to reach the show, you can contact us and follow us on social media at Ringside_Heat, or you can reach me directly at Lex Tan Media. It's a new day. Yes, it is. Our premiere episode. On this, our very first episode, we'll chat with WWE referee of over 20 years, Toronto's own Jimmy Corderas,
Right.
and in the Ringside Heat Roundtable, the crew will talk about the latest developments in the industry. This and more on Ringside Heat, News Talk, Sauga 960 AM.
Stream us live at Sauga 960 AM.
How does he sound professional? I'm kidding. Not that he doesn't now.
Oh, he came in hot for that one, man.
He came in
He
really
he was probably wearing a
sturdy,
tie and everything.
welcome to my show. The theme song.
Yeah, I like that one actually.
It was fun. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was
we
fun.
have the theme song that we know and love today, and you changed it really quickly.
Yeah, that was a conversation Lex and I had about. I think it might have been the beginning of our second year. He's like, "Oh, let's do kind of like a season premiere." We were talking about like let's relaunch. So the new theme song, just for anybody who's interested, is Lex wanted something that sounded a little bit more like the Nexus theme.
I can hear it now.
Which you can hear, right? Like I went back, I
Yeah.
listened to it, I'm like, okay, well, obviously I can't rip it off. I'm like, okay, what can I do that kind of sounds like the Nexus theme? But I've got one in the can. I've got one I'm working on now to read. I think it's after 40, after heading into the new area, ready for a new one. I got a new one cooking. But I like this. I like this first one. It felt pretty punchy, very
Yeah.
tragically hip, very Canadian. I don't know. I liked it.
I think that's what I'm looking for. Very Canadian, because even our
Yeah, it's very
logo,
Canadian.
the logo was completely different. I don't have an outline of it right now, but it was different to say the least. But let's keep going.
.ca.
Welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan. Normally you hear me on this station weekdays anchoring midday news updates. I'm an actor, musician, a little bit of everything, but of course a wrestling fan who got the
You sound
business
so
flowing in my
timid.
blood now for many years. We're here to talk about one of the most popular genres of entertainment throughout the world, and particularly in this city. We'll talk about the big promotions, but we want to also give love to this, our home market. If you're already a fan, you know we live in one of the best markets for wrestling in Canada and in North America. We have such a rich history with so many of the greats coming from here, so many of the greats coming through here. No doubt in my mind that the GTA and Southern Ontario's history, along with the past and current crop of wrestlers and promotions, but also the musicians,
I'm gonna
the
say this.
collectors, the
Pause for a
podcasters,
sec.
fans.
I like how Lex has grown. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
I can
Yeah.
hear it. I can hear it 100%. I really enjoy that. Lex has a confidence now. And we know Lex, like we know him really well, so we
Of
know the
course.
differences in those subtleties and how he delivers things. Like, yeah, I bet if you were to AB this with like the intro he would have done, for our last show, yeah, very, very different energy. I like that. That's already fun. Listen, just to that. Yeah.
And for context, May 1st, 2021. May
Wow.
1st, 2021 was the very first episode. We continue.
From every walk of life, we make up one of the greatest wrestling towns in the entire world. And that's something that we'll celebrate in this segment we'll call, well, let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something, brother.
There's a question you'll get asked if you're a wrestling fan. And
forgot
if you're not,
about that.
Probably
Yeah,
have asked
that
this.
was the TF to his monologue.
Why?
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you love wrestling? Why do you follow it? Why didn't you outgrow it? And if they're trolls, they'll ask you this most annoying question. Why don't you know? Why don't you see? Why don't you care? It's F word. No, not that F word. That very, very sensitive word that a young Dewey the Pebble Johnson punched a kid in the face for in high school. Well, at least according to the new TV show created by the most electrifying man in all of entertainment. And you may have even been told that by the people closest to you, that they don't like wrestling, and they may even laugh at you, or even try to discourage you from it. But it doesn't matter what they think. And you don't care if they don't get it. You don't care when someone minimizes the WWE or AEW or Impact World Championship, calling it a glorified Employee of the Month badge. You understand these men, these women struggle to learn how to wrestle safely, take hits, take bumps, performing for 10 people at the CNE, do job after job after job, lather, rinse, repeat, in the hopes that one day they'll hold up one of the greatest prizes in the industry, or wrestle a match on the big stage and have it called one of the greatest matches of all time. Catholic Saint St. John Henry Cardinal Newman, his personal motto in Latin is cor ad cor loquitur. Heart speaks unto heart. Maybe you were like a young Adam Edge Copeland who was mesmerized by seeing Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior wrestle for the WWF Championship in the brand new Skydome.
Can I pause
Maybe
here
you
for a
shed
second?
tears when that same
Yeah.
The fact that he mentions Adam Edge Copeland right away shoots me forward 3 years to the fact that
We got him. Yeah.
If you had told us then that Lex and
I
would
know,
have
right?
been- you know what I mean? Like we would have actually been sitting with the guy. Yeah, that one's
I
fun.
know, right? It's again like this is why I want to do these episodes, because it's a good it's a good it's a good appreciation of like where you are today for sure. 100%.
All right, let's keep going.
boy, after growing up to have one of the greatest careers ever, announced he had to prematurely retire because of his neck injury. Then nearly 10 years later, cried out of joy when you heard his music hit, felt that epic fan pop, and saw Edge's face nearly bursting into tears before he composed himself, posed for his pyro, and delivered his first spears in a decade. You may have even been outraged when a certain referee called for the bell in the building now known as the Bell Center, while Bret Hart wasn't tapping out to his own sharpshooter. And as a result, you fervently chanted, "You screwed Bret," no matter what company he worked for. And you may have felt immense pride seeing our very own Trish Stratus wrestle her final match as a full-time wrestler, defeating her rival Lita, and seeing Trish end her career as women's champion, remembering that when she started out, she was Vince McMahon's storyline mistress, barking like a dog, and diligently worked her way up to become one of the greatest women to ever lace up a pair of boots. Heart speaks onto heart. And because heart speaks to heart so well in pro wrestling, we'll get mad, we'll complain, we'll get disillusioned or burnt out when things aren't going well in the thing that provides us a little escape from our mad, 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 mad world. But to steal a line from Vince McMahon, wrestling is part rock concert, theater, soap opera, pyrotechnic extravaganza, and athleticism. And somehow, it all comes together in this wild, chaotic, heart-thumping bizarro of an alternate universe that we gladly come back to over and over again. How do you explain why you love wrestling? I got 3 words for you. Wrestling is art.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Time to take a break. When we come back, a man who has seen it all and gladly tells his story. Toronto's very own Jimmy Corderas. When we return with more Ringside Heat on Sauga 960 AM.
No radio.
I had a feeling we got Jimmy Corderas early.
Yeah,
I was literally talking to you. We literally spoke about this the other day. I'm like, I think it was like before we recorded episode 133. I'm like, we got Jimmy Corderas really early. No, we didn't. We got him by episode 20. I'm like, I don't think you did.
Did I say that?
I think it was you. Somebody did. But I said we got Jimmy Corderas. Like Jimmy Corderas became part of the show like right off the gate. And he's been a great friend of the show for sure. I mean, I think that was proven when he gave Lex.
Yeah, they ran into him in Mania. Yeah,
well, during Mania weekend. What a monologue by Lex.
That's a really nice piece of business he did there. It's a really nice.
And he told me that he wants to get back into the monologues because I think as well, like we got. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, there's more and more news comes out, and I think obviously it's great to get everybody's opinions or get something said right away. And I think in these early few episodes, you see these monologues often. Then I think it's something that I think I would love to hear him return to, if it I guess warrants or if whatever the case is. But I know that he misses those.
Yeah, I think what I like about this one in particular is it really is a sort of like a white paper on the brand. It's a position piece.
Blank slate. Yeah. Set the tone, and I think it did.
It's the thing that kind of goes, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. This is why we do it, and this is call all these great callbacks to these great Canadian bits. It just that was a nice piece of work. That was a really nice piece of work.
Indeed, and I completely forgot about the audio sound bites of "Let Me Talk to You," and then that's the bottom line. Which I think I'm okay if it's not in, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with leaving that out.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I think we can.
All right, let's see what Jimmy Corderas had to say with Lex Tan. Here we go.
A WWE ref for more than 20 Welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. I'm your host, Lex Tan, and I've got a great treat for you right here. For our first guest on Ringside Heat, one of my favorite people in the wrestling business. He's been a WWE ref for more than 20 plus years. He's refereed some of the biggest matches of all time, including a match by 2 of the greatest champions to ever set foot in a WWE ring, or any wrestling ring for that matter, The Undertaker and Edge at WrestleMania 24. Started from the bottom, now he's here, and he did it by paying his dues, by driving around superstars, setting up the ring, tearing down the ring, up on stage and everything. Learned from some of the greatest minds and personalities in the business. You can find him on twitter.com/Jimmy Corderas, on Instagram @RealJimmyCorderas. You can buy some merch at ProWrestlingTees.com/Jimmy the Ref, and make sure you tune in for his ref and rants on his social media. The one and only Jimmy Corderas. How you doing, sir?
Great, Lex. Thank you. This is an honor for me, actually, to be your first guest. That's kind of cool. That's a cool recognition, and I appreciate you thinking of me. That's awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time and being on the show here today. It's a great honor for me as well, since you're one of the reasons why my wrestling fandom grew the way it did, because you did your job just so well, and you made it so that the superstars could shine, but the match itself and the wrestling itself could shine by just doing exactly what you do. So thank you very much for helping to inspire that inside me.
Well, I appreciate that very much, because the one thing that I did learn over the years is the referee's job is not to be a focal point. The referee's job is to help the talent and the superstars tell their story in the ring. You're there to help them facilitate it. You know what I mean? And not be a distraction or noticeable or be part of the story, unless obviously if there's a part in the match that calls you to be a part of the story or be involved. Otherwise, you're kind of invisible, but still visible without being a distraction.
Still valid.
One of the things I did to prepare for this is to reread your book, The 3 Count, My Life in Stripes as a WWE Referee. It's a great read. Y'all should go get it. It's on Amazon or Kindle. And you mentioned that you worked with the Tunnies, and it was not the tail end of the territorial system, but when Vince had already struck a deal with the Tunnies and everything. So how was that, starting out from those really early days of what grew to be the biggest thing in professional wrestling?
It was very interesting because it was such a closed circle back then. Everybody was like so tight not to let the secrets out and not to, you know what I mean? It's not like it is today where you have all the wrestling websites out there and all that kind of stuff. There was basically one website out there that you had to subscribe to. I don't want to give a free plug to them, but but it was such a guarded secret. Everybody kind of had their suspicions that pro wrestling may have been
really
a predetermined outcome.
That's really good, yeah.
But at the same time, it wasn't like common
Because
knowledge.
we all
Everybody
know
knew
what he's
exactly
talking
how it
about.
worked. Now it's a little more out there. People kind of get an idea and they understand that it's as athletic as it is and as athletic as the talent is, it is entertainment first. And I think that's the biggest thing from those days to today that has changed. That is, and also the information is easier to access nowadays too.
That's true. And do you think that an understanding and the pulling back of the curtain was a positive overall for the business as you've seen it over your years?
Well, I see it as a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. You know, it's kind of like if I could compare it to a magician, for example, or an illusionist. You know it's an illusion. You know it's not really magic. You'd love to know how it was done, but some of the fun is not knowing how it's done. It's trying to figure it out without saying, "Yeah, I saw how he did that." And then once you find out how it's done, it loses its cachet. I'd rather fans sit back and not try to break it down and try to analyze it from I see how that is done. I see how that is done. And just kind of sit back and be a fan. And you know what I mean? As opposed to being a critic.
And it's an interesting thing because when I learned that how
You know what's funny here,
worked and
Jose?
everything,
Sorry,
because
quick
I was a
pause.
theater.
Go.
This is pre AEW.
No, AW started 2019.
With All In, but the weekly show, was Dynamite on the air yet?
I believe it was, yeah. Because I remember them going through the whole pandemic and doing their shows in Jacksonville.
Oh, maybe maybe I'm wrong. You're right. Maybe I'm wrong.
October
I feel
2nd,
like-
2019. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was already on the air for a couple of years now.
For a couple of years, really?
Yeah. Or a year and a half.
We got to scratch this from the episode. I don't know why I thought there was something on AEW that happened when we weren't.
Well,
Anyway.
what would you think?
So maybe at the very least, let's say this, 3, 2, 1. What I like about this is AEW hadn't quite gotten the traction it has now.
Mm-hmm.
Like this tribalism thing, or this, there was a bit of a honeymoon period. We had a second product.
Right.
I find what Corderis is talking about is almost prophetic in terms of where the landscape went and kind of what we're trying to get people to do now is like enjoy it.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Anyways.
Interesting. Yeah.
At the time, it made me actually appreciate the business a lot more. The amount of work that goes into it, from the lights, the pyro, every single little thing, and also how to improv when every single little thing doesn't go the way that you expect it to.
Uh-huh.
What is one of the most hilarious things that has gone quote unquote wrong in years that you haven't really talked about,
Oh,
but like worked out just fine?
I have talked about this, but not a whole lot. There was one thing that stands out for me was in Montreal. They brought in a young local guy who was a nephew of Joe Leduc, Carl Leduc, and they had him wrestle JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, in the opening match. And,
Oh yes.
And they wanted the young guy to go over, and John was fine with that. You know, he's a businessman. He doesn't mind doing business the right way. And they just wanted to do something simple because the poor young guy didn't have a lot of experience. So, you know, it was basically, we're in the locker room. I had the pleasure of being there when they were talking it over. And he says, we'll just do it simple. We'll keep it simple. We'll do some light little things. We'll go about 5 minutes, and then you roll me up with a small package. John says to the guy, and he's like, well, I'm not sure I know how to do that. He says, so he calls me over. He goes, Jimmy, come here. He says, roll me up in a small package. So I rolled him up in a small. I over the years, you know, I'd been like 15 years in by now, or 13 or whatever it was. I knew how to do the simple basic moves. And so there we are in the locker room, and I'm rolling up Bradshaw, and I'm holding him in a small package, and he's talking to this kid, and they got out there, and it was just a mess. So the next night we were in Ottawa. So they had the young guy, Carl, work with Owen Hart.
Okay.
Figuring, you know, Owen would be okay. But Owen is a little bit of a prankster, a practical joker. So they told Owen, whatever you do, don't have this young guy run the ropes. Don't shoot him into the ropes because he doesn't hit the ropes well and that sort of stuff. So what does he do? They lock up, and the first thing that Owen says to the guy, okay, shoot me into the ropes and crisscross. And my goodness, if you to see, I can't describe how ridiculously funny it was. But that's little things that can go wrong, but those are some of the more fun things.
I guess we went into a break.
Stream us live at saga960am.ca.
So we went right into a break there.
Yeah.
And one thing I really
there we go.
enjoyed
They're
about
right back
reading your
in. It's like if
autobiography
they had
and
to
understanding
cut for
your
time.
mindset, that you're one of the people in the industry that looks at the bright side of the business, and you want to keep
What, did
things
the
on the up and
station
up,
do
and
that?
you look on the positive side and everything.
No, I don't think so, because Lex would have had to edit the song in. So I think he just forgot to cue up the break.
Well,
which
then let's just say for record, he got a lot better at his throws to break.
Yep.
Considering the nothing he did there to what he does now.
They just suddenly go, and again, like this is again an example of like stepping stones for this show, right? Like we
Yeah.
all learn as time goes on, like from like
But you know what's
radio
funny?
etiquette,
Yeah, radio etiquette. But what do you do when you got Jimmy Corderas? It's our first show, you know, and it's like there's Jimmy Corderas. Like, what do you say? Hey, Jimmy, you know, stop that story about
Shut up for a second,
Owen
yeah.
Hart while we go to commercial. You
No,
know, like,
it's the right call. No. Like, look,
Yeah.
like, if I was a producer, I mean, like, look, the fact that he cued in the song, that's your the view listener will know that, okay, we got to go to a break really quickly.
right.
which
The
is-
listener knows it's coming. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
the listener will know what's coming. So if I was a producer of that, I'll be like, okay, listen, that's the right thing to do. Obviously, for the next episode, maybe if you're able to find a way to
Yeah, find that
potentially
little
cue in the
break,
break,
find that
go
little-
for it.
yeah.
But at the same time, I know you also don't want to interrupt it. And again, like we look at our recent interview with Omar that you guys did, right? That was
Yeah.
just 60 minutes straight. And then from there, okay, we'll go to the break after. So there was no need for like in between. So I guess it depends on what your cues are. But again, this is the first show, so we got to cut it some slack. Not a lot of it.
Well, how long was that? How long was that chunk?
I think about 7 to 10 minutes. I think.
We've gone
Something-
a lot longer talking about a lot less interesting things.
I know. It's we're learning here, folks. We're learning. Let's keep it going.
Which I really admire. And I'd like to get your thoughts on the way that the business has changed, as you said, in the early days of your career, being really insular
Mhm.
and kind of a closed circle kind of thing, seeing how things went through the Monday Night
I'm interested
Wars
with
and how
this.
bitter things were up to the
We'll
day
see what
we
he
have
said here.
Stone Cold Steve Austin and his Broken Skull sessions hosting Chris Jericho and them actually talking about AEW and their roster. How do you find the business developing in that sort of way?
I think you described it pretty good. I mean, like back when I first started, like I said, it was kind of like a closed circle with very few people allowed into the circle. And the information was limited that was released out there. And I think at times, I don't want to say for sure, like I knew for sure, but I think some of the information was released intentionally to try and get a small group of people talking, like the really diehard hardcore fans. And as the audience began to grow and more casual fans started to pay attention, with the advent of Monday Night Raw, and then WCW gaining so much momentum, and the Monday Night Wars ramping things up, the Attitude Era, things started changing. And then I think a lot of that had to do with actually the internet. The internet helped the business grow even more. Obviously years later, YouTube became a factor. Websites, now the WWE has WWE.com, WCW.com. ECW comes along and adds another different flavor to it. And everybody's kind of competing without really competing. All they want to do is succeed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And again, as time grows, like to today, like it's so accessible now. It's so easily accessible online. That's the biggest difference. So when people start to see, I'm not
funny,
big
Jose?
into the
Sorry.
ratings. You know what I mean? Obviously.
Okay. If I heard that right, and I was listening, but everybody was competing without competing. Everybody wanted to succeed. I'm like, that feels like a bit of a romanticization.
I thought of that too. Not to discourage.
All love to Jimmy. We love Jimmy, but it's funny if you were to ask Eric Bischoff, that guy
right.
That guy was competing.
Of course, yeah. Vince was competing.
Maybe Heyman wasn't. I think Heyman may have been the one outlier there.
I think because Heyman realized. I think Heyman realized that his niche, his style was so unique and catered that I don't think there was ever any importance to it. Like he knew that if people who dug it would watch it.
It's just funny. Right? It's like that's a lovely thought that everybody wanted everybody to succeed, but I'm pretty sure Bischoff was not thinking.
I will say that I'm sure even Vince before he left, even with AEW, I'm sure there was still less sense of competition. Do I see it from Triple H? I don't think so. Obviously, I think we see it more with Tony.
I think the only caveat there for me, or if that's the right word, is that I don't know that they would have seen in those days, especially. I'm trying to think if we're talking about then now, but like AEW as a threat, I don't think was on the radar the way WCW was. WCW was poaching talent. WCW was aggressively attacking.
Right. And then of course
going head to head on Mondays.
Exactly. And that was
different dynamic than
that was my biggest point I think that's my biggest point is that the TV ratings don't matter as much today as it did back then, right? Because that was your make or break for everything on cable, right? And it's from sitcoms to reality shows to even wrestling, that kind of sports. Yes, it mattered a lot because again, there's a whole documentary on the Monday Night War about like the ratings changing up,
which I've watched about 100 times.
It's a story you've heard 100 times, right? And you'll
but
never
when you hear Keith David tell it, it is even more beautiful.
See, there you go. So I like it. So in today's day and age, I think there is still a bit of a competition, but not as.
I think it's one-sided right now, man.
Sure, but I think like it's not like as intense or as passionate of a competition compared to the WCW WWE days.
Sure, because one could lose in one, metric and gain in another. They're different gauges, I suppose. I guess is what you're saying. It's not that one shot was TV ratings and house, I guess, live. But I don't want to go too far here. But yeah, it's anyways. I thought that was an interesting thing that there was this beautiful little kind of everybody just want everybody to succeed. I'm like, I'm not sure that's exactly what was going on. But
all right, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
When we were competing with WCW, I say we because I was at WWE at the time, and we watched the ratings and we, the 83 weeks and the whole bit, you know what I mean, and what's going on. But nowadays it's a little different because the product is consumed differently. If I don't catch it live on a Monday night, I can go Tuesday morning and pull it up like that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think a lot of it.
You didn't have to worry about taping it on VCR and then watching it the next day. Yes, I am that old enough to know that my family also. I remember the VCR tape days. I'm not that young.
Or two TVs set up. Right.
How do I think I saw my first WrestleMania? Through a VHS tape that was recorded the night before. So
See, you're first, but mine was the first over the phone. Let's just put that
good
in
old
perspective.
star phone.
It's a
Good
little
old
star
star
phone.
phone.
Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is people, a lot of the fans, not a lot, but there is a portion of the audience out there that's not watching it live anymore. They're watching it at their convenience. And I don't know if those numbers are being counted, but that's the biggest change is people are starting to watch it more at their convenience as opposed to, okay, Monday nights at 8 o'clock, I got to be parked in front of my TV so I can watch it. Friday nights, I got to be parked at 8 o'clock so I can watch SmackDown. Wednesday nights, I got to watch AEW. You know what I mean? So now it's fun to watch it live, but at the same time, it's not as urgent anymore.
And going back to what you said about everybody these days just wanting to succeed, it's not about taking over and running somebody out of business anymore. And now we have on TV wrestling at the very least 5 days a week with WWE Raw, NXT, AEW, Impact, and SmackDown. Do you ever worry that it's saturating the market?
These days, yeah, like you mentioned, it's at least 5 days a week, and all the stuff that's available on YouTube and online and stuff like that. And you even let's not leave out ROH, who has syndicated television as well on the weekends, which we can watch.
That's right.
So and then you got to
ROH.
add in the pay-per-views that are on the weekends, and that just adds.
I mean, look, ROH hasn't been bought by AEW yet. I don't think so. That was
No,
more
not at all.
recent. No, it's
Not
more
at all.
recent. So,
No,
which I
ROH
think
was still a viable,
still its own. Yeah,
yeah.
still its own.
And let's be honest. I'm a hockey fan. I'm a Leaf fan, but could I watch the Leafs every night? Back when I was younger, yes, but nowadays, my interests grow. I have other interests outside of.
Sorry, sign of the cross for the Maple Leafs. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. That's it.
Last night was rough.
Yeah, this is a wrestling form of entertainment, not hockey, or I will go on for 3 hours.
Professional wrestling. Even when I was working with WWE at the time, the travel schedule was crazy back in the day. Let me put it to you this way: being on the SmackDown team, I would leave home usually on a Friday morning, and I would come home Wednesday morning.
Oh, wow.
And then, I'd be home for basically a day and a half, maybe 2 days, and my poor wife would have to put up with me those 2 days, and then take me to the airport, and it was off again. So, I'm trying to compare life on the road but this is different. You're at home, you're getting to pick and choose what you want to watch. But if you're a diehard wrestling fan who likes it all, it's kind of hard to take it all in. And again, too much of a good thing, it can be too much. And I'm feeling we're getting to that point right now where there's just too much wrestling content on television. I wish it was more spaced out. But there's only 7 days in a week, and you're taking up 5 or 6 of them already.
And as you just mentioned, you were being on the road as a referee. You go leave for SmackDown on the Friday, you get home on the Wednesday. Being that the pandemic has made the product stationary, would you have liked the whole staying in one place where you could go to work every single day at the Thunderdome, or would you rather be on the road?
That's a tough one. Right now, I would rather be in the one place. That's me now at my current age. As a youngster, traveling and doing that stuff is kind of cool because you get to see all these different places, you get to experience all these different things, and you have your traveling partners. Like for myself, for a long time there, it was myself, ring announcer Tony Chimmel. We were both on the ring crew back in the day, as well as I refereed. He was ring announcer, but we were both on the ring crew, and the athletic trainer Larry Heck. It was like we were the car, and Kyoto would ride with us sometimes, and stuff like that. But so there was this camaraderie, and you call it a brotherhood, and it basically was, But nowadays it'd be a little bit different. I kind of envy the fact that the guys get to stay in one place. They're in Florida. They're pretty much based there. The only thing that's sad is
what's
not having.
crazy here?
I know at Daly's place they allow some people in.
They haven't left the Thunderdome yet.
They haven't left the Thunderdome, and there was no indication of when they would.
No, I
Right?
thought we were out of it by no, and that makes sense because Well, this was after WrestleMania 37, and which had fans, but they stayed back, and I believe the first show was. Oh my goodness, when was it? It says September of that year, right?
I think so.
September or August. It was after SummerSlam, I think.
Yeah, it was summer for sure. And it might have been outdoor because they didn't want to do indoor arenas yet.
Oh man, we gotta do some.
Yeah,
I'm
we
sure
gotta
there's
do
one of
we
the
gotta do
episodes
some
we're gonna look up
forensics
to
on
it.
that.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Somebody
I've-
let us
a
know.
limited
Anybody?
amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which adds because you get that live
Mhm.
reaction and feedback from the crowd. That's the only thing I think was missing. Like we saw it at WrestleMania this year where they allowed the live crowd. So we got that live instant feedback. But then the one night after WrestleMania, it was back to the Thunderdome with the video screens and the piped in sounds.
Okay, I don't remember
That's
any
why
of
I
that.
like NXT better. And NXT does have a live feel to it. You have some audience responding. And that's what this business is predicated on.
That's right.
It's predicated on that live reaction that you get from your audience. Whether it's positive, whether it's negative, they cheer, they boo, whatever, you get that live feedback and reaction, and that's how you judge whether you're doing your job correctly. So that's the thing that's missing for me right now is having that live audience. But to your original question, would I like to go back on the road the way it was currently today? No. I need to wake up for lost time with the missus. There's one thing that they might be able to convince me to do is to maybe go down to Orlando and help, for lack of a better term, teach the young crop of referees and kind of mentor them the way I was mentored.
I love that.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
kind of
that's
pass along
awesome.
some of the stuff that I learned from some.
I
of the
wish he had
greats.
that opportunity. I
greats like
do.
Bobby the Brain, Gorilla Monsoon, of course, Vince McMahon himself, who called you pal, which is a great thing. What's the greatest lesson that you've ever learned from anybody in the business?
Oh my goodness! Bobby Heenan was the one who told me you never stop learning. Never think you know it all. You will always continue to learn. And the second greatest piece of advice actually came from I want to say it was David Hebner, who said, "Just remember when you're out there, it's not about you; it's about the talent. So you're not out there to get yourself over. You're out there to help the match get over." And I was like, "Yeah,
Right.
that sounds right." And then there was the one time we were driving to Brantford, Ontario for a TV taping, and in the van I had all the announcers. There was Bruno Sammartino, Bobby Heenan, there was Mr. Fuji, there was Gorilla Monsoon. And I'm in this minibus driving them all to Brantford back in the day, and they were chatting away, and Bruno pipes up and just says, "Oh my goodness," he's like, "Hey kid, what's your name again?" I said, "Jim." He says, "Jim, how long have you been working for Jack?" I said, "Oh, just a couple of months." He says, "Oh, that's all." He says, "Would you like some advice?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Get out." I said, "Pardon me?" He says,
No
"Get out of the
way.
business before it gets in your blood, because once it's in your blood, you're hooked."
You're
And then there's Bobby going, "Ah, come on, Bruno, leave the kid alone. Let him do his stuff." You know what I mean? So, but he was right. Once you get infected with this industry, this business, man, and once it gets in your blood, oh man, it is infectious. It's awesome.
Gotta ask you, what do you think about the leads this year?
They're looking good, but it's tough to judge. Again, here we are in this because of the pandemic. They're playing only the Canadian teams. We don't get to see them play against the other U.S. teams. So
Lord
it's going
help
to
me.
be difficult to judge. But you know what? I will take it as long as we don't get an errant high stick from a Gretzky to a Gilmore that doesn't get noticed by Kerry Fraser.
Ooh.
Yeah. Of course, I had to take the cheap referee shot in there.
Lord help me.
Well, Kerry Fraser, he did prevent the last possible Toronto versus Montreal Stanley Cup final from happening.
Yes.
And that is a sore spot for me myself as well, because because I may have been a little bit young to appreciate it fully, but at the same time, looking at it from a historical perspective, my God, would that have been an epic Stanley Cup final to end that era?
Yeah, I don't have a personal issue with Kerry Fraser, but I can never forgive him for that moment.
How crazy is it to see that the old barn of Maple Leaf Gardens where you did that, where you got your career started, it's still up and everything, and new arenas and everything, but instead of like buying hot dogs at the concession stand, you're getting hot dogs from a freezer.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know what? It was cool because as a fan, I attended. I basically went to the wrestling office, the Tunney office, and talked to Norm Kimber, who worked in the office, and got what was the equivalent of season tickets. So I had the same tickets because they ran every 3 weeks at the Gardens. So I had the same ticket. It was 2 tickets, second row ringside, right beside that ramp that used to go from the dressing room to the ring that was level with the ring, and I would take pictures there, and it was the greatest thing ever.
What is the advice that you want to give to somebody that may be coming into the industry for the first time, or even experiencing the world of wrestling for the first time?
Oh my goodness! As a fan or as someone who wants to get into the business?
As both a fan and as somebody who wants to get into the business.
As a fan, just keep an open mind. Yes, I know there's these misconceptions or predetermined notions of what pro wrestling is. It is entertainment. It is there to entertain. It is there to have fun with. It's not like I tune in and watch Law and Order SVU and say, well, that can't happen in real life or something like that, or that's not really happening or something like that. It's the same thing as watching a television show. And for those who want to break into the business and want to learn the right way, there is a right way to learn. It is, please do not dismiss what the veterans have to offer and the advice they have to offer. There seems to be, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but yes, we want to evolve the business and make it grow. And that's what there seems to be doing right now is, there's old school, there's new school. To me, it should be a blend of both. You can mesh the two together and utilize what those that came before you learned and help maybe, adjust it and turn it and create something new, but using an old formula. There is a way to do that instead of just saying, oh, that's the old way we used to do it. We don't do it like that anymore. And I think that's one of the things I'm seeing with young wrestlers today is they think they need to do more to get noticed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you don't need to do more. You just have to get people invested in you. I hate to use the term less is more, cliche, but at the same time, if the less you're doing is something that's engaging and gets people to notice you as opposed to doing 150 high spots and a twisting burning 450 hammer phoenix splash, and then in the next minute you make people forget about it by doing something just as spectacular. Like it's like going to a fireworks display and seeing a whole bunch of cool fireworks. Try to remember one. You can't, because so many different ones went off. Make moments special. Those are the ones that people remember the most.
And on that note, thank you very much, Jimmy, for being here on Ringside Heat with me here on Sauga 960 AM. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
No, please. Thank you for having me. It's actually an honor to be the first one on here. This is cool for me. And keep up the good work. And we will definitely do this again in the future. And please tell my buddy Dave hello.
That's Mr. Jimmy Corderas, WWE referee for over 20 years. You can buy his merch on ProWrestlingTees.com/JimmyTheRef. Look out for his ref and rants on his Twitter and Instagram. And he's also the author of The 3 Count, My Life in Stripes as a WWE Referee. It's available on Amazon, and you can get a physical copy or for the Kindle. It's a book you'll definitely want to pick up for an in-depth first-person view of the business.
And the person who got me to write that book, the missus, my wife Audra, she's talking to me. Who knows? Maybe in the future there is a part 2 to come or something a little bit different out there, because I have been experimenting with cooking lately. I don't know if you've noticed on some of my social media.
I think he's brought it up.
Hashtag ref to chef.
A couple times.
Kind of thing. Who knows? Maybe there'll be a ref and cookbook coming out soon. Who knows? I don't know. I'm wide open to all kinds of suggestions.
Well, the WWE did a cookbook back in the day, and hey, I'm sure that your creations would be very delectable, and I would be very honored to be able to try them one day.
No, I appreciate it.
They are pretty incredible.
Yeah, you'll be my guinea pig.
Yes, definitely. And don't worry, I got some space in here, my friend. I got some space for you.
Awesome.
Coming up at the break, we'll bring in the round table as Ringside Heat continues
The
on
round table.
960 AM.
Oh, we call it the round table?
All right, well, Ring Crew, it says here in the description. A couple things. Number one, the first show back with fans was July 2021. July 16th, Friday, July 16th, 2021. That was the SmackDown, in which had that tag match, that 3-man tag match of Edge, Dom, and Ray against, I believe, the Usos, if I'm not mistaken. And just to put more salt in the wound, with Lex asking that question about the Maple Leafs, this was a couple weeks before that best of 7 All-Canadian series began, in which saw the Habs take on the Leafs in the first round, which, of course, the Leafs lost in 7 because they're allergic to Game 7s, apparently. But great advice from Jimmy. It's definitely some. I know your oldest wants to be a WWE superstar one day.
Well, they both do, but my oldest seems
More
particular.
your right. So that's advice I think your kids need to hear at some point in their lives.
Can I tell you a bit about both of them? And this is what and I don't want to go, because I know we've got more to listen to
Yeah,
here,
we
and
got
I'm
about
fine with
another
that.
20 something minutes. Yeah.
I have nothing but time. But what I love about when he talks about don't disregard what the veterans say. I could have talked to him all day long. They know Stone Cold, of course, they know all that stuff. I could have talked to him about Hogan and all that. It's the 2K games when they get to book legends. So
Ooh.
Luke, who
Of
obviously
course, little Luke.
knows stuff about these guys I didn't know he would know because he's booking them on the shows in doing whatever that is, my GM.
Yeah.
So they're learning, and he's asking me stuff like, "Oh, what about this? What about this character? What about this character?" So one of those really cool things, and you do that if you had figures anyway. It's like all you've got is a Hulk Hogan and a Ricochet, so it's Hogan versus Ricochet.
But
But it's like which would be ridiculous. But all I'm saying is that idea of the respect for the vets. I think the 2K games, in a really interesting way, are giving maybe people an insight like, oh man, like this guy's an 80. Like, who was this guy? Like he's
right.
like those game ratings are huge,
Well, also,
right?
also as well. I mean, look at you say you don't have 24, right?
Not yet, no.
Not yet, and I need to get it too. But look at 24 for example, right? The 40 years of WrestleMania, right? For young fans like that, they're gonna go back in time, and WWE is gonna give them those moments, right? And then the great thing about even with past showcases and past games is that they'll give you like the little like snippet of like, okay, here's what led up to this moment and why we got there, right? And
Yeah,
then
well,
from there,
2K13 was 30 years of WrestleMania,
yeah, and I
right?
love
Like,
that's my
or
favorite 2K.
2K14, whatever it was.
It was for
Might have been
14,
14. I think it was
14 or
14.
wow, whatever it is. But
But point being, it's like I can go back and play that on my 360, if it doesn't have the red ring of death. They can go back. So they know all that. Yeah, right. Yeah. But like the 30 years of WrestleMania happened 10 years ago, obviously. But yeah, like the 40 years of WrestleMania is probably even better than the 30 years was.
yeah, I can't wait to play through it. My only, I guess, regret is
I
that
hate the historical bumps. I can't do those. Those drive me crazy.
the
Like
what?
when you gotta do the things like the historic, like, oh, so and so did this.
Oh no, well aside from that, but like I think like what bugs me is that it's not every WrestleMania, I believe. That hurts.
It isn't?
No, I don't think so. The first 2K, that the 30 years was every WrestleMania up until
It
WrestleMania
was
30.
absolutely.
So, and I don't think it's all 40, which sucks because I think there's definitely a story to share in every WrestleMania, but I'm biased a second.
I
WrestleMania,
didn't know that.
yeah. Okay, we had to take a quick pause if you're wondering why the little break in between because John was feeling a little cold. I'm kidding. He just wanted to be comfortable. He just wanted to be comfortable.
Jose's wearing a hoodie. I wanted to wear a hoodie.
I always wear hoodies. I'm a hoodie guy, but
Me too. Me
it's
too.
very irrelevant. All right, let's keep it going. Let's listen to our younger selves, which okay, 3 years is not a lot, but let's see how it goes. So game on.
Yo, no problem. Stream us live on Sauga960am.ca.
Welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Saga.
Sorry, really quickly, that theme does bring me back. Like I feel like an
Totally.
instant memory reaction when I hear the theme, but I'll continue.
9:60 a.m. I'm Lex Tan, and we've got a roundtable discussion lined up here for you. First off, we have Mark Farinas. He's been a wrestling fan since the start of the Attitude Era. His favorite factions were the NWO, the Main Event Mafia, and the Bullet Club. His favorite wrestler is Edge, the rated R superstar, a full-time cable technician by day, wrestling fan, and gamer by night. You can also find him on twitch.tv at MKD_CE04. You can call him MKD. Mark Farinas. How you doing, my buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Lex? How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. Just really excited to be doing this show with you today.
Splendid.
Next, we've got Colin with 1L Dodge, relocated Torontonian living in Nova Scotia, a 30-year wrestling fan who is just as fascinated by the business as he was when The Undertaker first appeared in 1990. He's also responsible for the graphics you see on our social media, so thank you very much for that, Colin. Let's give him a chance, and he won't stop talking. Colin, how are you?
I'm happy to help. Good to see you. Good to see everybody.
John Dawson.
Two things before we get to you. One, Lex's natural confident self is already there. Between the intro and to this moment, he was there.
Absolutely.
He was there. Second, I've never met somebody that has spelled Colin with 2 L's.
Yeah, I don't know why he had to. I don't.
All right, let's hear John Dawson.
A professional musician, composer, and educator. He has performed across Canada, and his compositions have been published nationally on multiple occasions in several resources. A lifelong wrestling fan since the early days of the rock and wrestling era, but after a brief hiatus, he rediscovered it again in the Attitude Era, hasn't looked back since. He also wrote our theme music. So, John, thank you very much, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lex. Great to be here. Hey, guys.
And Jose Taboada,
Oh my God.
is currently working in...
Go.
I sound so positive. Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
I'm so happy to be here, guys. So
happy to join me.
let the record show that John is getting angrier and angry apparently as the years. Well, I'm kidding.
3 years of building, fermenting rage.
Also, like I only met Lex once a couple times, I think before. I met him in 2015, so we didn't speak for 6 years. So as soon as I heard him say like my last name, that's how you know that he hasn't heard me or spoken to me on a regular basis. I only met him once, and somehow it left an impact for him to ask me to be on the show. It's hilarious.
He did. Well, yeah, I mentioned you, right? But I also got to say, I think I might have wrote that bio he read, and that might be one of the few times he ever did that. He decided he rewrote. He like I had this whole thing about discovered wrestling, all this garbage.
Oh, right.
I think we had the right bios.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, he's like, yeah, give me a bio, give me your socials, and what do you do? Wow.
Yeah. I was like, why is it? Where would he get all that stuff? Like, I must have given it to him.
Hold on, really quickly, because now I'm curious. Yeah, hold on. There is no way. 2021, right? June. Okay, let's see. We transfer.
We transferred a bio for real?
No. I'm just like. Oh yeah, April 7th. Yeah, he's like, hey, I'm looking at the email now. It's like, hey, like the way the round table is gonna go. Yeah, and he said, please send me a short bio how you want me to introduce you, so I don't end up saying something factually incorrect or say anything that would be sensitive information.
Yeah,
that is great. I guess this was
hilarious.
I said, I just said Jose Taboada, 27, curling work in sports journalism.
Find out what you said, but let's see if you read it right.
So here's what I put down. Jose Taboada, 27, currently work in sports journalism. Been a wrestling fan since 2001. Currently hosts a podcast that I created in college called Under the Middle Rope. You can find on YouTube, which of course, blah 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 blah. And this was before I started streaming my Pokemon stuff. It was
right.
I
mentioned that. Yeah.
I did not. There's not gonna be a mention of it. Like there was nothing. Like I had no idea I was gonna be a streamer for 2 years at this point. And then I asked them, anything else you're looking for in the bio or anything else you want to add? And for some odd reason, I put Hail Shane McMahon.
That was your last line, really?
Yeah, that was the last line of that email, and I don't know.
That feels ironic.
Yeah. I mean, this was in April, but I guess like was it?
Hail Shane McMahon. Had he done something recently that would have popped you, or what?
I don't know. So Lex sent an email in March saying this was gonna happen. Wow. This was and he gave us like a proper breakdown and everything, and then all you guys are and then I said, hey, thanks for the opportunity. Saying hello to you guys. Oh, I would look this up if you're able to find those emails, John. When you get the chance, look it up. This is hilarious.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
have to dig through.
let's
Anyways,
listen to my intro.
Yeah.
In sports journalism, he has been a wrestling fan since 2001. Currently hosts a podcast that he created in college called Under the Middle Rope, and you can find that on YouTube and wherever you get your
Okay, so he
podcasts.
said a word
Jose,
for
welcome
word.
to the show.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I am doing just fine. Excited to be talking with wrestling with you guys. And last but not least, we have
So
Chico
timid.
Nuguid, over 30 years.
I'm telling you, that's that again. I like I said, I get nervous meeting new people, and I don't like meeting new people. But that's how I
Hey,
meet.
buddy, those are the fewest words I think you said on any episode ever.
Well,
in one moment. Hey,
Let's-
buddy, how you
let's-
doing?
because I was nervous. We
Sure.
all were. You were.
You only we all said, but see, yeah, you said hi to him, not us.
I'm sorry, but let's hear Chico.
Years of pro wrestling fandom. He still says his prayers and takes his vitamins. He's curated what he deems to be a modest collection of wrestling action figures, but nearly 1,000 figures. Would you consider that modest, Chico?
I don't know, brother. It's a lot, but whatever the case, whatever you want to call it, it's a collection, and I love it. And I love being here today with all of you boys. And thanks so much for having me.
So once again, thank you guys for being on the show here. And
Typical
we're going to go
Chico.
around the horn again. And I'd like you guys to give your best and worst of the week. So if you wanted to give your best of the week, say just bring it. And if it's the worst of the week, then lay the smackdown on it. So let's start with you, Mark.
All
What
right.
was
Oh, I forgot
something
about
you
that.
would say
Yeah, we
just
laid
bring
the
it. The other
smackdown.
one to lay the smackdown on.
All right, so my just bring it of the week, it's going to date back to what happened on Sunday night, which was on Impact Rebellion. I'm not just going to talk about the match, the big match, Omega versus Swan. I'm actually talking about Mr. Mauro Ranallo.
Oh, yes.
What a gentleman, and like what a great sight to see, to hear his voice again, to broadcast play-by-play on Impact that night, because you know what, just hearing that guy's voice, you know what, he brings the fan out of him. Later SmackDown for me though, I'm starting to get really tired with Matt Riddle, or Riddle actually, because all of a sudden, well, when he came into the WWE, when he came into the NXT, like he was like this MMA, he's coming from the MMA and showing off his talents of all that. But now all of a sudden, now Vince is putting in this guy, his character is now like a 15-year-old and a 15-year-old now. This guy almost forgot his lines, and now he's like, you know, just trying to act really, really silly. I'm like, I really liked him at first, but you know what? Now he's starting to grow stale on me. So that is my latest SmackDown on him.
Ah, yes, the proverbial son of Rob Van Dam. Colin, what is your best and worst of the week? Just bring it and lay the SmackDown on something.
For Bring It, honestly, Penta versus Orange Cassidy, that was a fantastic match. I was
Already
hooked
into
from
the
beginning to
AEW.
end. Penta's been a favorite for me from AEW when they started doing it. And Orange Cassidy, I admit, I did not know pretty much anything about him until seeing him in AEW. And of course, I went back and looked at everything. I love his entire gimmick. And yeah, so that match just had me from beginning to end. For my latest SmackDown, shockingly, I'm going to say Darby Allin, but not for what you might think. I'm worried that he's going to burn himself out. He's turning in great matches week to week. I'm reminded of Ricochet from WWE, where he just is doing everything at 110%, but to me, there's no longevity. There's ways to pull off amazing matches without being insane all the time.
John.
I'm gonna say just bring it, just a little different than everybody. I gotta be honest, WWE's Most Wanted Treasures, Kane and Undertaker, was just so entertaining. Again, I'm a sucker for the Attitude Era. Also, my wife watched the whole thing with me.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, that's kind of cool. You know, that was, it just really spoke to me. For sheer entertainment value. Yeah, so, you know, spoiler alert, my wife is probably more into wrestling now than maybe even I am sometimes. So,
which is great. I experienced that in Philadelphia.
You saw it firsthand.
Awesome.
And we'll see as we go along these watch alongs, we'll see the moment that gets her. But it's really funny that this was okay.
I just want to say that Colin saying that Darby Allin shouldn't go insane, and he never took his foot off the gas pedal.
No,
He was still. I think the AEW Revolution was probably the pinnacle of like, this is stupid, and I think it's kind of sad that everybody breathed a sigh of relief that he was not going to do Mount Everest because of a broken foot.
yeah,
Because you're all terrified of him.
he
But
could have
anyways,
died. Yeah,
he still wants to, but no, wants to climb Mount Everest. That is, but yeah,
yeah.
here we go.
Thought that's pretty fun. My latest SmackDown, I gotta just say, Drew and Braun. I love Drew, but I'm just done with Braun. I'm sorry. I know the guy could grind me into a fine powder if he wanted to, but I'm just I just don't find it engaging, and meant nothing.
So it would be safe to say that you wouldn't want to get those hands.
Good heavens.
There's me.
Good
There's you.
heavens.
There you go.
Yes, exactly. And now that we heard your voice, Jose, we want to get your best verse of the week. Just bring it and latest SmackDown something.
Well, latest SmackDown is what you just said. I'm kidding. In terms of just bring it. I did have one thing, but I actually have to change my point because actually John just reminded me, so I'm gonna change it up here. I had to follow up on the A&E stuff for my Just Bring It, and the Roddy Piper documentary from A&E was absolutely spectacular. He was a big family guy, and obviously the business can get to you as well, which I thought they documented well. But just great storytelling, and A&E has been really good on that for these past two so far. I know the Stone Cold one was great, but Piper was really, really good. Like, after watching that, I understand why Piper interfered in the street fight at WrestleMania 19 with Hogan and McMahon, given their history leading up to the first WrestleMania in '85. So I just appreciated that, and again, just great storytelling. Highly recommend it. For my latest SmackDown, it's from AEW, but again, not for the reason you would think. I'm going to talk about the announcement of the IWGP US Championship match on May 12th. Jon Moxley versus Yuji Nagata. I have no problems with the match. I think that's something that's very, very to look forward to. I think it's just how they announced it, which is a little frustrating, I guess, in my opinion, because I know a lot of people hate WWE for just sprouting things on people, and AEW kind of did that. And Nagata is not a guy that you just casually just drop in a graphic, hey guys, he's coming into AEW in 2 weeks. He's a two-time IWGP champ, two-time tag champ, IWGP, the 2001 G1 Climax winner, a two-time New Japan Cup winner, 2007, 2011. The list goes on of his accolades, and I kind of wish there was maybe a small video package, or at least some sort of a little build-up, because next week is Blood and Guts for AEW. So I know we're just going to be heavy focus on that. So it should be a fun match. I just wish that this was introduced in a better way for fans.
I'm actually very encouraged to see.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. They still do it. They still do. I think AEW still does that. That wouldn't surprise me, but okay. All right. What do you think of your points?
I wish I knew what Drew and Braun match I was talking about. I don't know. I don't remember, but clearly it was not very impactful.
Well, I mean, considering that Braun hasn't been on TV in now, I think more than a year.
Well, yeah, but I could see why I would say that. I find there must have been a lot of, I don't know why I would have zeroed in on that. That's interesting.
Again, one time for maybe the future.
But okay, for me to say my high point was an A&E special. I think it's telling because I don't think I would say that now. I think I would find it would be very easy for me to find something in the programming proper.
I wonder what I changed, because I piggybacked.
Yeah, you pivoted there. Yeah, you pivoted.
Yeah, and I wonder what I had.
I don't know, man. I think it's just interesting to think if we're going to now, that was just as the A&E stuff was starting to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a big deal, but it seems to me like if that was my talking point, I can't imagine there was a whole lot going on Like, can you imagine saying that now, like with everything going on, that
Oh, of
your
course,
highlight was
right?
a
Like,
most wanted treasures?
yeah, like, all right, well, like, I mean, this week in WWE was, but A&E is bringing out the Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man
Right?
rival
Like if
series. Like,
like
yeah, it'd
that
be.
would be your
That's your
highlight.
point.
Like
Yeah.
what was happening or what wasn't
I
happening?
agreed. I did like. I can't believe I'm saying this. I did like Mark's point about Riddle because I knew I was bugged by Riddle as well. I knew I was irked by Riddle. I was never a Riddle guy. And I was happy when he left WWE, to be honest with you, and it's kind of a sad thing to say, but so that's I think one of the only few times I agree with the kid. And again, Mark will be there for 10 episodes.
I don't hate his voice on radio, actually. I like it a little better than mine. He's got a big, strong presence. I will say that.
Not yet for me.
Gotcha.
Not yet. Let's continue and carry on.
A&E doing those documentaries again, because they did a whole bunch of them in the early 2000s as well, which are really well done. And I'm glad that they're returning to that and keeping that tradition going. So, Chico, what is your Just Bring It and what is your latest SmackDown?
Now, you guys already jumped on the A&E bandwagon. I was going to pick the Piper documentary as well. I mean, it really was my highlight of the week. I guess another highlight I could mention is that I've been looking forward to Kenny Omega doing crossover stuff and bringing stuff together. So even if the match wasn't necessarily a Meltzer 5-star classic, I think it was kind of cool that they went forward with it, bringing the whole best belt collector side of Kenny Omega back to the forefront, and with even more eyes on the product now than when it was in New Japan days or the indie days. Lay the SmackDown, I would have to call out the Raw women's division. It's one of the worst things that I've seen in a long time, and this is not a knock on the talent whatsoever. They have a lot of talent, I would say, that would be good contributors. It's just creative doesn't have much for them, and now they got the women's champion on Raw, Rhea Ripley, who could have been a promising prospect. Debut as a bit of a heel, but act like a face at WrestleMania. And then she teamed up with the heels on Monday, and she's been acting like a heel. I don't know where they're going with Rhea, which is a shame because she's such an amazing talent coming up from NXT.
Yeah, it's definitely with Rhea she's one of the best talents that the WWE has right now. It's just a matter of how to use her.
Wow.
That's a fun one.
How does WWE use Rhea?
That's a fun one.
I wonder how, right? John?
Yeah. Yeah. How about she creates an entire category of her own?
How about
Wow.
she's quickly become the most influential superstar of all time and has probably paved the way for the next young females that are going to be inspired. That is nuts. That is great. And Chico destroying the whole Raw women's division is hilarious. That is
again.
fantastic.
I mean, we'd have to revisit what that division looked like at the time. But yeah, but how does one use Rhea Ripley? My goodness.
That's something I never would have thought to hear. Well, we probably, I mean, it makes sense. It's 2021, May 2021, but that's yeah, that's funny. All right, let's hone in this last
Yeah.
segment.
All of the rest of the talents that are kind of languishing in the I guess this creative limbo that's going on right now.
Stream us live at sauga960am.ca.
Kenny Omega's title win at Impact Rebellion. That's something that I would love to talk about. What is this going to mean for Kenny Omega, for AEW, for Impact, for the business on the whole? So anybody would like to start off with this? What does this mean? Go ahead, Colin.
Well, you kind of just echoed one of the notes, one of the points I had written down here. And this kind of thing automatically reminded me of the Hardy Boys going to promotion, collecting tag belts. Of course, capping it off at WrestleMania, but
the Expedition of Gold, as they say.
Expedition of Gold, exactly. And they were pretty much, to me, they were shining a light on companies that were unknown to the mainstream wrestling fans. Like there's wrestling fans that are wrestling fans of the industry that are looking up everything, paying attention to everything, and there's ones that really just know WWE and maybe now AEW. thanks to crossovers like Chris Jericho, for example. And so to me, Kenny is kind of doing that same thing now with his worldwide audience that he's now bringing to the mainstream. So to me, taking it from the perspective as the industry as a whole, it's just kind of shedding a light on everything.
Don Callis is should be probably up in the Mount Rushmore in Winnipeg wrestling. He's the one with the mind with what Kenny Omega's doing right now. I mean, what a great run as a face or a heel. This guy can pull it off. He can do anything. And I saw his Instagram page just the other day. This guy, this guy puts his face, and then he has the body of Cell from Dragon Ball Z. That's how immortal it is. It takes maybe 30 episodes just to beat this guy. Maybe not. Maybe 60, maybe 90 episodes to beat this guy. What a tremendous run though, because you know what, you're right, Colin's probably right. He's probably putting AEW and Impact probably get these minds together and, let's see what they can work with what Kenny's doing right now. We're not going to grow old with this. We're just going to sit right in, enjoy the ride with this guy. And this guy is absolutely blowing our minds off right now with what he's doing on the ring and outside the ring.
Jose.
I love. Oh, sorry, it's Jose. Never mind. Go.
Oh, dare you? I think I will play.
We were so polite.
We were way too polite. Because God bless. Because we still do that. We all still do that. We all do. We kind of just
a lot less though. Now we just kind of talk. It's we'll figure it out. Somebody.
Yeah.
But yes.
Oh, Chico.
That's funny.
We'll look at the other side of that. And I do wonder this, as exciting as this is, as exciting as this is, I do wonder when will it be time and how will it be time for Kenny to drop these titles? Because he's kind of turning into this really big super character, kind of similar to Roman Reigns on SmackDown, which is a good thing. But then the conversation kind of start to, okay, who's gonna dethrone him? Who's worthy of it? Is it the right choice? And then we're scrambling on again and again, kind of like a little streak back in 2014 at WrestleMania 30. I think for Impact, I know there are people saying, oh, it's not fair to Impact. They just lost their champ. They're still being put on the map. They're just again, as somebody who's strictly watching WWE or and still watching AEW when I can, Impact was not on the table for me. But now I got to see what's going on in Impact. I have to at least be aware of what's going on in Impact because of what Kenny is doing. It's great exposure. I'm just worried will this turn into a debate among fans of who's going to do it? Are they worthy? Or will fans even be patient? I know a lot of fans in today's social media era just don't appreciate long-term storybooking to a certain extent. A lot of people just want results instantly, or they'll say, oh, I'm bored here and there. I know a lot of it mainly applies to WWE, but it could apply to this in AEW, which again, I just think that they have to be aware of to keep fans engaged and have to build somebody strong, whenever it's time to drop those belts.
So the same problem that WWE ended up having, I think, up until a couple of weeks ago in Philly, was an issue in AEW, which Kenny Omega had the TNA World Title, the AEW World Title, and then he had a third. So he was known as the belt collector, but he was piling up the titles a lot.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that mindset didn't cross for us for Roman until probably another year later, or if not, maybe 2 years later. At WrestleMania 39.
But you even said who's going to dethrone Romans. Already we'd been kind of going, okay, he's champ, but who's next? But this couldn't have been too long into his reign.
May 2021. He already defended the title. Oh my God, it's a great question. When did he? Yeah, because he won that title.
Did he take it at Mania?
No,
Mania? No, it wasn't a Mania. Sorry,
because he was defending the title, but I think that was his first year as champ. I think that was his first year as champ, Roman, because
there's this
the tribal chief. Yeah, so August 2020, he came back. Yeah, August 2020, he came back, and then Payback in September, he became champ.
So we're a year and change into his reign.
Less than a year.
Less than a year.
Less than a year. And I was upset that Edge didn't win against Roman. And look, keep in mind, I thought that at the time, I'm like, oh my God, this reign's already going too long. Why don't we give Edge a chance? Because the story was there for Edge. And then
Which I would have agreed with, yeah.
And then it obviously went on another few years, right? And then we started Ringside Heat after that. So the fact that I'm saying this about Roman less than a year of his reign,
there's already fatigue.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's
something. All right, here we go. Let's last 4 minutes of the episode.
2 words come to mind, I guess, in terms of who could, for example, bring the Impact World Championship back to Impact Wrestling. At the end of a 90-day no-compete clause, I think Samoa Joe could fit that bill just fine, among other people. I don't think I'm worried at all about where it's going. Right now, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride because I love crossovers, man. I'm an MCU fanatic. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe really, really entertains me. And so Kenny Omega and the Super Elite, or the reunited Young Bucks, Good Brothers, Kenny Omega, Don Callis faction, I guess that's kind of something that's very, very appealing to me. I love these crossovers. And just like Colin was saying, I think it's really good that it's putting several companies on the map that wouldn't have the resources like Tony Khan would with his paid ads and everything else, to really put Impact Wrestling back on the map. I mean, they were already on the map, but they fell way off the map, especially in the, I guess, in the way that Dixie Carter kind of mishandled the company from what people were saying. So I think it's good overall. Sure, I share maybe some of the trepidation that Jose has, but not very much. I think they're creative enough, and as Tony Khan said on like Busted Open Radio, they really, really keep their ear to the ground. They
Open
listen
Radio
to what fans have to say a lot, and they try to adapt on the fly while sort of pushing forward with what their agenda was. So I like it. I like where it's going. I like the exposure it's giving to other organizations. I've never been this much of a fan of other companies outside of the big two than now. So I like where it's taking me.
There's an interesting opportunity, and I feel like there's just this Jericho on the Austin podcast shows that maybe there is a really much bigger step that can be taken eventually in terms of this sort of cross promotion. Now, I don't see WWE personally as like the majority, if you will, in the house. I don't see them ever allowing their titles to float in other promotions. But could you have an interpromotional championship develop out of this with a, kind of tournament style interpromotional challenge? And then do you have a title that can circle even among WWE? Because you'll never see the Universal Championship on Impact or AEW. And I don't think that's the point of this whole Omega thing anyways. And I know that, but I feel like there isn't I don't think it's impossible to see a scenario where the WWE could get involved in this. And that's when you would really have my attention. Now, is that the wrestling equivalent of DC and Marvel doing a crossover? I don't know. But it's a big statement what Kenny's doing. And the fact that they're two North American promotions that have some attention on them, that's a significant thing. And I hope WWE sees an opportunity here. Personally, I think you could get some cool ideas out of it.
And it's really interesting to see where this could all go, thinking about the last 40 years of the sport since Vince Jr. went national back in the 80s, from it being very insular, then competitive to the death during the Monday Night Wars, then not really having any major alternative for more than a decade, to where it is today. Maybe that's the development that the industry, and particularly WWE, needs to inject new life amidst massive amounts of content that's already out there. And maybe it could mean that we are actually witnessing the beginnings of a cooperative era on the big stage. Unfortunately, time is not our friend. So thank you, Mark, Colin, John, Jose, and Chico for being on the show today. And we will definitely do this again next week.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Lex.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to Jimmy Corderas, Jotzi, Praveen, Nav Nanwa, Dave Vastrel for all of your help. And thank you for listening to our show today. My name is Lex Tan, and we'll be back next week with more Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM.
There you go.
The city of Toronto has new rules.
There you go. That concludes episode 1. And are companies cooperative today, John?
No.
There you go. I appreciate the optimism thought, though. It was a good.
I think it was borderline delusional, but
Well, no, I mean, I think there was a little bit of hope, and obviously everything panned out the way that it did as time goes on, and when we look at episode 2 for you guys, I'm sure we'll see it develop. You asked why Braun Strowman was on your radar.
yeah.
Well, Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre were in a well, Drew McIntyre, I think, was in some sort of Braun Strowman was in a 2-on-1 handicap match against Mace and T-Bar. And then Mace and T-Bar defeated Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman in a tag team match later on that week, because WrestleMania Backlash was going to happen a couple weeks after our first episode, and it was Bobby Lashley retaining his title against Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre. So they were involved in the world title scene at the time.
Wow.
And so that's what led to that.
I forgot the Bobby.
As for the Raw Women's Championship, I mean, Asuka and Charlotte were involved in a triple threat with Rhea, who was champion.
Right.
So I don't know what caused Chico to Rico. I don't know what caused Chico to say that, but there you go. So one episode in the books. What do you think?
Yeah, it's good. It's neat to listen back. It's again, there's so much that, like, even with like the Braun and Drew thing as an example, it's like it's so funny to think about what was on the radar then, and as we go forward, it's going to be interesting to see what gets on our radar going forward. Because I got to be honest, and I said it already, the fact that my high point of the week was an A&E show.
Oh boy, right?
Tells me what maybe the resting temperature of WWE was at the time.
Well, for what it's worth, I think this will summarize the resting temperature. One of the matches at that WrestleMania Backlash, Damian Priest and The Miz in a zombie lumberjack match.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Which I think will tell the whole story. So we're going to wrap it up here, folks. Again, so today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday when this episode was released. I believe I'm going to try to aim for Tuesday, Thursday weeklies. I don't know. We're John and I are still gonna hone in the details, and of course, if the rest of the ring crew want to come in and see what they want to say, which of course we definitely want to get their inputs on this, because this is so great to look back to as well. And the reason why they couldn't be with us, because right now they are, at the time of this recording, they are in the middle of the live reaction of AEW Dynasty, which right now Ospreay and Danielson are having the time of their lives there in a match right now. But for now, this was the first episode of our look back of our Ringside Heat episodes. John, I'm sure you'll join me for the next one very soon.
100%.
So for John Dawson, I am Jose Taboada. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. And again, don't forget to tune in to Ringside Heat every Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And then catch the replays on Sauga 960 a.m. Tuesdays at 9 o'clock Eastern. Talk to you guys soon.